Welcome to Your Soul Wisdom, hosted by Yana Amor Manocas. In each episode, we invite you on a transformative journey delving into the profound mysteries and wisdom of the soul. Join us as we explore a wide array of spiritual topics and sacred practices that nurture and heal the soul, from reincarnation and soul contracts to the enigmatic experiences of womb alchemy and astral travel. Our discussions are designed to enlighten, inspire, and deepen your understanding of your own soul's journey. With Your Soul Wisdom, nothing is off limits. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Your Soul Wisdom. Today, we have one of my lovely friends, Monique Andrews. Monique is a master holistic life coach practitioner and master NLP practitioner who empowers women to reclaim their inner strength, heal past wounds, and rewrite their stories with confidence and purpose. Through personalized coaching, energy healing, and divine feminine wisdom, Monique creates a sacred space for deep transformation, guiding her clients to elevate their self-esteem, embrace their unique beauty, and step into their highest potential. Hi, Monique. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Hi. Listen, knowing you, I know, like, as I'm reading it, I'm like, yep. That's exactly who you are. But you're also like very much like a badass who takes like zero shit from anybody. And it's like, it's funny because I met Monique. We went to the same spiritual church. And she would sit further back. She'd come with her son sometimes. And I'd hear her sing. We'd sing together. And I'd be like, man, I need her like you ladies. I need her in my life. And so little by little, like I would turn around and I'd see her because she'd always come a few minutes after me. And I'd like push her. I'd be like, come to the front. Eventually, Monique and I got to that front. We're always in that same spot. But, you know, like she's like one of those people where Monique and I, like our eyes will connect and we know exactly what's going on, what we think. And you crack me up because you are like who I want to embody, where you take like zero shit from anybody. But what's really funny is recently we were talking about what we're going to be talking about today, which is energy vampires. And energy vampires, right? For anyone who really doesn't understand the term, it's people that just suck the life out of you. In general, right now, Rachel, are you laughing because you're thinking about that clip you sent?
Well, that was Stephen, and yeah, that's from a show. But honestly, when I was even thinking about energy vampires, what I was thinking of is, are those people everywhere they go? Or is there a specific chemistry that happens with me and that person that causes me to feel like they're sucking my life force out of me? So I want to know, that's my first question for Nick of, you know, is it circumstantial or are people just kind of like that?
Well, I feel like sometimes it can be circumstantial, but usually that's their character. And from what I experience, it kind of follows them everywhere they go. That's how they interact with everyone. Intentionally, I've seen that, or unintentionally. But from what I see, yeah, it's just them as a whole. That's just a characteristic trait. But a lot of that stems from childhood trauma. The reason why they have started that already.
Okay,
when you say that,
there's that. Let's box it out, Rachel. Let's box it out. Go ahead, my friend. Go.
Well, that's cute because I was about to step down, and now I've basically forgotten what I was going to say as well.
So I win. So like, okay, there's a few levels to this, right? People that suck your energy. There's the people who, because of their own childhood, their own past traumas, their own things, I don't want to say leech onto people, but they grab onto you because you're somebody who they feel is giving them some energy. And then there's some people who intentionally know what they're doing and they see your power, they see your beauty, they see all these beautiful gifts that you are. Your energy feels so good to them. And they're like, I'm going to suck them dry because I want what they have because I don't have that. Right. So there's like different levels and you feel the difference within that. Sometimes it just feels like, oh my God, this person's just draining me. And sometimes you're like, I don't know why I always feel sick, why I always feel down, why I always feel this negative energy when I'm interacting with this person. Right.
Oh,
So there's
absolutely. I just encountered someone, she's spiritually gifted and she does it intentionally. And I had never encountered someone like that. Like everybody looked at the person with so much high regard. And I would sit and watch her. And I was like, you're doing something. I felt it. It felt icky, like you're taking advantage of people intentionally. Um, Especially those who are vulnerable, who need help. I felt like it was very disgusting. So I just blocked her. Like, oh, okay, we're not gonna play this game. I see what you're doing. Um, but you have to be spiritually aware. And I had never experienced that level because I was like, wow, if you have gifts, you're supposed to be helpful. But you can have gifts for good and you have gifts for not so good. It's still a choice. So I encountered that one. But most often, how they torment is narcissists. They're are the main ones that will do that. But I was getting downloads lately about narcissists because, it's a term that keeps coming up constantly, constantly, constantly. And I was like, I mean, is that really narcissism or is that some type of entity? What I got was an entity. So usually when these narcissists develop, there's a childhood trauma, and it's usually with the opposite parent. And because they don't feel so great about themselves, they leech onto empaths because empaths are like, oh, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I want to come here and spread my love and spread my joy. And they suck. They leech on and they just suck and drain them dry because they keep getting the benefit of that. Oh, no, they're not like that. Oh, no, I can help save them, because empaths can save the world if you are not, aware of it and, block your energy and whatnot. But yeah, it's a lot of levels to this. And I guess because everything that's going on around the world and we're awakening to some new things are also coming with this awakening because I'm like, it has to be something else. It just has to be something else.
So you mentioned a few times something really important. You're like, I just blocked that person. Most people don't even realize that it's happening, number one. But number two, I think it's really important to address how do you block that? Because sometimes just as simple as not being in that physical space is not enough because we know, right? We encounter people who will, oh my God, how do you say it? Not telepathically, but like they will remote view into you. They will get in your energy. They're energetically in trance, or you guys help me out. What's the word I'm looking for? They're like in your energy and they're not even physically next to you.
Intruding.
I know what it is, but I can't remember it.
Yeah.
I've had
Psychically
those
invading your privacy.
with you guys, but I'm much more in the 3D world at the moment with this sort of conversation. And I'm interested, in how these people drain your energy. Because when I'm sitting here thinking about my own experience, like obviously there's dickheads that I've come across, millions of them in business. But what really drains my energy is willfully obstructive people. And that drains my energy like that because I'm like, I instantly go to life's hard enough. Don't make it purposely harder for anyone kind of thing. And that really disturbs me. But other than that, I don't feel like I haven't had the consciousness of actually anyone as like a vampire sucking me dry. Have you guys had that actual experience?
So,
you're nodding. Okay,
so I
cool.
think,
Yes.
no, yeah, so I think,
like, okay,
so I
maybe I need
think
to have
that
another
there
think.
is, that there's like a 3D way of being an energy vampire, and there's also a spiritual way of being an energy vampire. So for me, in the 3D way of being a vampire, those would be those people that you kind of like, you could have friends, there could be anybody really, or even, sometimes it could be clients whereby if your own spiritual hygiene isn't tough enough and high enough, whereby they can pull energy from you. So when you come off that call, you're completely exhausted. You can have friends whereby, they are draining energy from you. And it's not in a sense in a spiritual way. It's more in the way that they are in a constant state of, say, turmoil or constant state of trauma.
Okay.
And so every time they're on the phone to you, it's always the same thing. And no matter how how much help, whether you offer that or they get, or they've been offered help or support from somewhere, or they completely ignore all the help and support that's around them because they want to stay in the story. And that also pulls energy from you every single
Okay.
time, because you get off and you feel exhausted. You feel like you've been like,
Yeah.
you've been just hitting the ball up against a brick wall, really. Do you know what I mean? So there's different ways of draining. And then there's also those ways whereby, just like how, like Monique was just speaking about, like how, whereby, there's those spiritual attachments whereby they drain from that, and that is a lot more insidious, because you don't necessarily feel the drain unless you're very aware that something's been taken from you or been pulled, so you don't come away feeling tired or exhausted. Not always.
No, but it hits you in the end, doesn't it?
It
It's like
hits
it
you in
takes a
the
bit longer,
end.
and then it like smacks you
That's
down.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
because you're away from them, you're not even on, say, like whether it's a call or whether you're near them, you won't necessarily um um um
Attribute it to
um
them.
attribute it to them. You just know, I feel exhausted, I feel whacked, and I could feel like this has been happening for ages. And unless you have the wherewithal to navigate the map backwards to where you originally felt the drain or the pull or the tiredness, then you're kind of like lost. Then you've got to go, either you can do that, either you can sever the drain and return it back to them, or sever whatever attachment it is that they've hooked into you and return it back to them, or you could send a hand grenade and blow them the hell up.
Like
Do you know what I
Kylie.
mean?
What you were speaking about,
Energetically.
Amanda, what Amanda was speaking about, where, someone is, you're on the phone to them and they're constantly in that story and they can't see past it and all of those things. I mean, that can be them stuck in a, sympathetic response
Yeah,
where they have had
yeah,
trauma. So it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
that they necessarily want to be there. They're just not ready to move
No,
past it
yeah,
yet.
100%, 100%, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
also, Monique was talking earlier about empaths, and I would
Yep.
identify as one of those.
Yep.
So for
Mm,
me, it's been quite the journey, because I find it particularly hard because I can go into and sense and feel all of those traumas. So my heart immediately goes to, you know, wanting to heal, although it's taken a really long time for me to go, okay, I can't do that. But it's like, sounds like an easy thing to do, but I've probably spent decades working on it. I would say I
mm.
think I'm there now, but we'll see what happens next time. But it's quite the journey.
Yeah, I totally
Mm.
understand empath here, but I call it my superpower. Now that I
Yeah.
know that I'm aware of it, I feel like,
Mhm.
great. I feel what you feel. I can help guide you through what you're going through, but I know how to cut it off too, because I'm not trying to save the whole world. I can
Mm.
help you navigate
Yeah,
to where you need to
yeah,
be. I'm not your
yeah.
savior. Save yourself.
Preach
I
it.
can't do it for you. So once I cut that off, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I can feel what you
Yeah.
feel. Okay. And then I stop there. And then I'll help you, guide you where you need to go. I help navigate you and help you remember who you are, the power that you have. But I don't want to save the whole world. I'm not Jesus, and I'm not trying to be. So that part is draining. It's
Yeah.
like,
They've got to want it. They need to want it.
yes, they need to want it. They absolutely do.
The
I
funny
want to make
part
that new
about that
t-shirt.
is, what'd you say, Kylie?
I want to make that new merch idea. So Rachel, make a note of that. I'm not Jesus. I'm not here to save the world. And I'll even put Monique Andrews at
Can
the
you
bottom.
imagine if we started wearing that clothes?
I would totally
I
do that.
totally
Oh.
buy the shirt.
Like it's happening. It's happening. But what's really funny is it's like you're talking, Monique, and all I think is like boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And we just did an episode on boundaries. And as an empath, that is your superpower, that is your gift. But if you don't have those boundaries in place, and it's funny because you can think you've got good boundaries, and then that person will come in and they will push and push and push, and they'll get pretty far, much further than other people, to the point where one day you're like, how did I get here? And it's funny because it could be as simple as, God forgive me, but I have this lovely neighbor. Okay. She is older. She has me buy her cigarettes. She's like, my kids won't do it. You have to do it. Okay, Rachel
I've
has
been with
heard
her on
me.
the freaking road trips for these fags. So yeah, sure.
Okay, cigarettes, yes. And so
Fags.
Sorry, that is a slang Australian word that has nothing to do with any
Oh, gosh.
writing
I
of
get
a
it.
minority.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
And so Rachel has literally heard me drive from, for anyone who knows in the Midwest, from Lake Geneva back to Chicago. And I'm stopping from gas station to gas station because one doesn't have it. The other one asks for an ID and I don't have it. It's like this whole thing. And I love this.
ID.
Oh my goodness, were you like, oh, thank you?
She was
so
not.
annoying because I'm like, I just need to get my stuff done. And
was a compliment.
she will always, she'll ask me for them, and she's an anxious individual, so she'll text me a million times until she gets them. And I remember when I was gone, I was just out of town, and she was blowing up my phone, and I'm like, well, I'm not home. And she, for like that entire week, every day, anxious text. And I thought to myself, how did I get here? I'm trying to do this and that. I thought I was doing something really good for my neighbor. I was helping her out. Of course, it's cigarettes, but it's a thing that she has asked me to do. I have no problem doing it. But now that I'm away from a week where you see I'm physically not able to do it, you're pouring all your stuff on me. And I just, it was that lesson of, lady, you're draining me. That's not what this is meant to be. I am meant to just be the helpful neighbor, and we have a great relationship. And now I'm just like, I need to cut this cord. I just can't carry that anxiety because you take it on.
Yeah, you do.
It's not always easy to cut off that energy. It's not.
You do. And you find that you're obviously managing yourself as well in a way that, is supportive of them. So you're managing what you do, how you do it, knowing that even sometimes it probably goes through your head at certain times, like she's coming up. Is this today? You know what I mean? She's coming up for a new pack of cigarettes. So like, I need to be prepared, or maybe I should pop it in my shopping. And then, I've always got it in the house ready for when she wants it. That's crazy.
Well, okay. So here's the funny thing. Here's what really put the cherry on top. I come back. She knows coming back. And she goes, do you think you can go today and tomorrow? And I was busy. I was gone for a week. So I have things to do. And she likes me to go really far away because they're much cheaper at a different county. I know. It's like this whole thing. Anyway.
Even I'm like, what?
Not a chance.
In the car
talk about you in all of
this has been going on.
Not a chance.
Oh my God.
Not a chance.
This is an intervention.
I'm telling you now to stop.
Well, here's
anyone who thought you were fierce, Yana, is like, no, she's not. Listen to this shit. No, she's not.
Anyway, sorry. Continue the story.
The cherry on top is she messaged me when I got back, and she's like, I need them. But I knew my neighbor had gotten her some, and I'm like, okay, tomorrow I'll go get them. And she's like, well, my daughter was in town and she smoked most of them, and now I don't have any. And I thought to myself, your daughter was here and she didn't replenish you? Like, I'm not your kid. Your daughter was here and didn't replenish you. And I was like, yeah,
that is
we're done.
100% a drain, because the fact that her daughter was smoking them meant that it wasn't even the fact that her daughter was in town and could replenish them. It's different. If her daughter wasn't a smoker and then she wasn't going, and then she's not going to go get. But if her daughter smoked them, then her daughter has to know that they came in somewhere. She's not replenished them. No, absolute nonsense. It's not happening.
Taking advantage.
But with this situation, it's really interesting because it's like Yana's feeling the whole of really a different relationship in that woman's life. And I think that really speaks to a lot of these dynamics where we do talk about, trauma and developmental trauma for children, and those relationships as you come up, that they haven't got what they needed to, to feel safe or have a comfortable kind of attachment and their own self-regulation. So then they start doing that with other people. So that was a really good example, because it's clear that woman didn't have that dynamic or that relationship in her life elsewhere, not even with her daughter.
Okay, so then let me ask this question then. Monique, in your work, because you deal with clients with this kind of stuff all the time, right? Like one-on-one with clients. But is there a connection to people who are those energetic vampires, is it that you become their number one relationship? And so, like, do you guys understand what I'm saying? There's people who are married. Like, I've got friends who they're married, they have this full-blown life, but I'm very well aware of the fact that I'm their number one relationship. Does that make sense? Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm their person, I'm their go-to. And I always think, God, in my relationship, I want my partner to be my number one relationship. And then there's everybody else. And so is there a connection to
Can I
child?
just ask you,
Yeah.
Jonna, just before you ask Monique that, to answer that, how did you deal with it? Because we need to how you dealt with it, and then how did she respond to you
The
dealing with
cigarettes,
it?
the lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
Well,
did it end?
I did a little research, and apparently there is one service online that will ship you your cigarettes. So I
Okay.
said, God, I don't even want to tell you the rest of the story, you guys. You're gonna kill me.
No, we're not.
This will be fun.
Cigarette. It's like $300 and something, right? I put it by, and I say to her, I'm gonna be, because she's so anxious, I'm gonna be home in 30 minutes. I got your cigarettes. And she says, well, you know, I just took a pill and I need to rest for an hour. So I'll let you know when I get back up. And I thought, no, we're done. And so I put them by her door. And then I send this lovely text saying, they're at your door. I hope you're feeling better. By the way, I did find this online service where you can sign up and they'll send you your cigarettes and you never have to be anxious about it again. You never have to rely on me if I'm not around. Zero response. But
What about the cigarettes?
But I have not heard back on if she needs more or not. So maybe, listen, I'm also very willing to go to her house and help her set up the account.
No,
But that's how that ended.
I think she can find a way.
You think?
Our daughter can come over.
I
and
suspect
set
she
it
might
up.
try and find a way to connect with you again that won't involve cigarettes, but it'll be something else.
I know. But that's my problem. I feel bad. I need to be more. This is why, I need more Monique in my life, because I am not your savior. I can't save you. Nobody can save me if I don't save myself. I know when I am being my own vampire for somebody else. I know when I am being my own sabotager. I'm very well aware of it. Whether I change the behavior or not is completely up to me. Because you can lead me to the water, but you can't make me drink it, no matter how bad you tell me something. And so, do these people realize that they're sucking the life out of you, or do they not care?
Well, I think we keep hitting the ball back to them as well.
Right.
There's two types, like Monique said earlier, though, right? There are those who don't realize and they're living out sort of unhealthy relationship dynamics and they're trying to fulfill a need. And then there's the other type that consciously do it, right, Monique?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm pointing to you on my screen.
Because it's the trauma and they keep repeating it over and over in their head. It's a story that's stuck. So they'll just keep saying it and saying it and saying it. And what you were saying before, they bond to you. They do, because they are releasing a lot of vulnerable stuff that they have never said to anybody else. It's certain things that have been said to me that have not been spoken to anyone. They have experienced childhood trauma and have never said to parents. So yes, they do have a bond there. Sometimes it's very clingy, but I understand where it's coming from, but I still have to implement boundaries. Like, yes, I am here to help and support you, but this is what I can do. And outside of this, I can encourage you to do it yourself as well, because, we're co-pilots here. It's not me doing everything. I want to encourage you and empower you so you can do it, so you can drive your own cart, as you will. But it's some people who do it intentionally. I do have one friend, she doesn't do it intentionally, but she's stuck in a story. And I would even say she tries to leech on to my son as well. Like, I need to talk to you. I don't play about my child. I said, okay, source, block her, not for the high school.
Okay, hold on. That's another T-shirt.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay, source blocker.
Blocker.
I'm going to source first. I don't play about my child. I was like, okay, If it's not for the highest best good, block her. She was trying to come in and all of a sudden her car started shaking. She couldn't make it. I said, well, that's something that you need to address. But no. And my son picks it up too. So he's like, oh no, I don't feel like talking to her. Okay.
So hold on a minute. She wants to come over to speak to your
Oh.
son.
She wants to come over and see us and interact. And I'm like, you got a lot going on. And I told her nicely, maybe you should focus on your healing first before you come around my child, because children can't block you the way that a parent can, or I can as an adult. And so she was taken aback. I don't know if I really cared because of my child. But then she was like, oh, okay, and it made her more aware. So when she was having these moments, she knew not to even interact with him. But he himself was picking up on, he's very gifted in that way. And he would not interact with her. So it's the energetic. You feel it. He might not know what it meant, but he didn't want to be bothered either. So I would just block her. I'm like, oh, it's not for the highest best good. Block. And something would happen. She couldn't. Not that I'm wishing
Okay.
anybody, but no.
Was there any point in time ever where you felt bad when you blocked someone? Like, what was no. So you're a natural. Okay.
I didn't
We
feel
need
bad.
to help the people that can't do it.
I feel bad if I have to block somebody, and I've only ever done it once, and they were awful. They were horrible people, but I still felt gutted that they had brought me to a place whereby I had to block them. And I just, and that made me kind of mad. So I'm not really good at blocking, but I got other ways. I can chop you off and cut you off. And those ways might actually be even worse than blocking.
The hand.
Mojave.
I'm going to let God got it. Like,
I thought you might start talking about potatoes again.
This has been such a lesson in boundaries to me, more than our boundary episode, because I don't know how much experience I've had.
Because we're all bad at it.
Exactly.
Joking.
I don't know how much experience
And
I've
we
had
needed
with
Monique.
energy vampires, but I can see how I give my energy away over and over again because people ask me to do things and I don't want to do it, but it is actually easy for me to do, and it's actually easier for me to do it than tell them to do it themselves. That is the story of my life, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And I just realised I'm not doing anyone any favours with that. Like no one. There's no favours in that.
It depends. You can still do things for people and be a kind person. It's just when it starts affecting you, right?
Well, I can see that it's my own avoidant behaviour. But this is for the first time, Monique, so thank you for that reflection.
But, okay, so Monique, you weren't, from my understanding, you weren't always in your boundaries the way you are now, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so so what was it that helped you shift into like this block? Because I think I know us and people listening, they're like, I need to know how to get to that place successfully.
Well, it was a story time. I was in a very tumultuous relationship, a marriage, and it took 3 years to get away from this person, 3 years of divorce. And I remember going to church and the reverend was saying, if you don't learn how to forgive, you're going to keep repeating these lessons. You're going to find more men that you have to forgive. I was like, oh no, well, we start now. So I started my healing process. Like, I'm going to work on forgiving my dad. I'm going to work on forgiving the ex, because he himself was a narcissist and he was very draining. I was always tired around him. I always needed a nap. He had no boundaries at all. And he did it with everybody around him. He had a different personality, a different story for everyone. But once I sat back and saw, I was like, well, you know what? If you have to lie about everything, he don't really like himself at all. You couldn't possibly, because as I am, I'm okay. Everybody is seeing who I am as I am. So I was like, oh, he doesn't like himself. I saw that he was competing with me. I was like, oh, it's not me. It's definitely you. So I started to heal that part, because a lot of years it was like manipulation, whatnot was going on. And I felt like I lost myself and I didn't have the power that I usually have, because I am a very strong person. I've been through a lot and I'm very powerful once I stand in that power. And somehow I got sucked dry. And it was a lot of manipulation and a lot of games. So I was like, okay, well, it's time. And I wanted to focus on healing. I went to therapy. Therapy was amazing, but she was like, oh, you're done. I was like, oh, okay. In my eyes, honestly, I'm not going to lie, I thought once you got on therapy, you kind of just stayed there forever. Like this was it. It's just like, oh no. I don't do that. You're done. Come back when you need a check-in if you just want to vent. I was like, oh, okay. So I needed something else to help. So I did run into a program and did coaching. And for me, it perfectly aligned because I was doing a lot of healing. So they piggybacked off each other. Once I was healing something, I would go to church and it will piggyback and it will collide. So once I did a lot of healing, I tapped more into that power. I learned more about me being an empath. And I was like, oh, okay. At first, I was like, wow, who wants to feel everything that everybody else feeling? Because it seems like everybody else is not feeling that way and they feel just fine. But I stopped looking at it as like it was something that, not a curse, it was just something I could actually help you, but I have to put some boundaries in place so that I can thrive myself. I can't just keep giving everybody else. Then I'm not going to be useful. I can't pour into other people if my cup is empty. So I just started implementing boundaries. And I could say it nicely. It doesn't have to be nasty or anything like that, but I'm going to say it. And what I said is what I said. And if you don't agree, we agree to disagree. And that's totally fine. I don't have to have an attitude with you. We don't have to yell. We don't have to curse. We don't have to fight. None of that. But I will have hard boundaries when it's like, that's too much. And I see you trying to manipulate the kindness. And it's like, no. And then you're embarking on my free will. And I can't tolerate that. Been there, done that, and I just refuse. And I just, because what I've been through is like, once I see it, it's like a hard no. Like, oh, absolutely not. So when I see it, I can block you like, oh, okay, I will not entertain this. I'm blocking you spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. You do not have will here. It works right away.
I'm laughing because just the other day, I think it was on Friday, I was going out with my husband. But I have this person, I don't actually know if he's a relative or not. I think he might be a relative, right? Because I've got a massive family, like extended family. And I think he's taken all of the sort of like my cousins, because when I look about who we are, who you're kind of like, who who you have in common, it's all my cousins, okay, in the US. So I'm thinking, well, he's got to be a cousin, but I think he's taken one of them, all of their contacts, and he sends out all these church sermons to them. So he sends you these voice messages, right, whereby he's doing all these church sermons. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Why is he sending this to me? I don't even know him. But so I think, do you know what? I don't need this rubbish. So when I go to like, I think, oh, I'm going to block him. Up comes block, but it says delete the message or block. And I'm like, oh, I feel really bad about blocking him. I'll just delete the message and then it's gone. But it keeps coming up every week. And my husband's going through, why don't you just block him? And I said, because I feel bad and I don't know if he's a relative, and I feel bad if he's a relative by me blocking him. It's just a church sermon. I don't listen to it, but then I also think, but you've gone and stolen somebody else's contacts. I don't know you and I haven't given permission for you to contact me, but you're sending me this stuff, but I find it hard to block him. Isn't that crazy?
Okay, that is the wildest thing, because it should be the easiest thing you do. You just go, boop. But why do we care so much to like how that you're not doing anything wrong? Why is it that you're sacrificing yourself for somebody else's feelings? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but isn't it because
With
part of
cigarettes.
us wants us to be able to be the kind of person that can be accepting, open, supportive, helpful? Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's always, as far as the boundary goes, it's sort of like trying to decide who I want to be, as in true to what I want to do for me in the moment, which is almost certainly not doing something for someone else, or whether I want to be a kind, generous, available friend that people can depend on. Do you know what I mean? So I think that, yeah.
Well, most people in general, they want to be liked. You don't want to be the one that's like, oh, okay, you've been blocked. I know it sounds harsh, but it's like, it has to happen because it'll just keep going on until you get so irritated, you're just going to do it anyway. But conflict happens in life. It doesn't have to be so nasty. It's just like, oh, okay, well, that at this point, it just doesn't align with me right now. And that's okay. and we can just move on. But yeah, I
I
understand.
find that hard though, Monique, because I mean, like, I know we've gone completely off topic, but you know, I think it's quite an important one because I feel quite triggered. Because you know, I've been blocked, and I got blocked for the first time last year. I don't even know why I was blocked. I have not said a mean, I've not done anything. So it really makes you think. So even like when you say that, maybe, you know, your energies didn't align, but somebody has said, right, well, my energy doesn't align with my energy. What's wrong with my energy? Why would you not align with me? Why wouldn't you want to align with me? I'm a
Monique's
lovely
like, oh, I've got all these
person.
new clients today.
I'm thinking the difference between Amanda and I is the difference between FOMO and JOMO. As in, like if someone blocked me, there's no way that I'd react to it badly. I'd be just let off the hook. Just like if somebody cancels an arrangement with me, I'm like, let off the hook. Just
Like,
wow,
stop it.
missing
3
out.
hours back to
Really?
myself
No,
that I
I
didn't
was
know.
hurt. I was really hurt. I was really hurt.
Were they someone that you genuinely
Why would
liked?
you block me?
But did you like them?
Yeah, I thought I did. I don't anymore, but I thought I did.
maybe the
I was
version of
hurt.
that, maybe the
Yeah.
version of what they are now, they can't align with you right now. Maybe they know that.
Mm.
They did you a blessing in disguise.
Well, then let me block them.
Oh.
But I won't block them.
Well, that's the ego part.
Hold on a second. I have a question. Who here has actually blocked somebody off of their phone?
I've only done it once.
I've got a finger. See, yeah, me and Lauren's got one finger up.
Multiple.
A few
you lot
times,
got
but I
whole
felt
hand.
like I felt
look, it
really
should be a lot
lovely and
more.
protected by it.
Really?
Well, the ones that I'm thinking of are business ones, and I'm just like, no, you cannot contact me again, that kind of thing. And it's really quite nice knowing that they can't. So I've never been conscious of someone blocking me, though. I mean, I'm sure I have been blocked, but I just don't know about it. So,
well, there
never
was
got
one
offended.
situation where we all got blocked, Rachel, if you remember correctly, and it was
Oh,
instant relief.
again,
Yes.
It was
doing a favor.
It was
Thank
right.
you.
It was
Yeah,
instant
yeah.
relief. It was comical. It was hysterical. But you know what's interesting? When you're doing it to somebody, it's very much like they've triggered you in some kind of way where you're like, I don't need this in my life. But when it happens to you,
Yeah.
you spiral and you're like, well, what did I do to
What did I
create this?
do?
Totally. Even if you wanted to get away from that person, if you still take it a certain way, like how dare they do it before I did to them? You know, like what is
I
happening
really
there?
don't. I honestly, genuinely, I don't feel like that. I'm so grateful if anybody makes a move and I don't need to do it. And it's not like I'm a victim of it. It's just like, oh, that's how it is.
Well, when I got
didn't-
blocked, like I was like you, when I got blocked after that one, when we all got kind of like blocked, I got blocked just before you guys on like the general block. And that one, I just thought, there, but for the grace of God, go I. Afterwards, I just realized, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just thought about all the wasted energy and all the wasted stuff that I'd given from me to that. And I just thought, yeah, well, that's it. However, having said that, and look at the crazy thing, although they had blocked me, I had not blocked or deleted them from my system until months afterwards. Because I still felt, I just felt it's a rotten thing to do, and I didn't want to be part of that. I don't know. I think maybe I thought it would just naturally evaporate off my phone. I didn't have to press that button.
If I was you, Amanda, that would be almost like a feasible thing, as in, I'm just going to be a different version of Amanda where this person doesn't exist on my phone.
It just doesn't exist.
But you know, I think all of this really speaks to core human needs of love and acceptance, right? So we don't want to be that person that's blocked, and we don't want to block others because, you know, we all have these needs of love and acceptance. But I think the key thing is, like, how are you feeling? How is it affecting you? And you know, I just feel like saying, protect your peace. You know, if anything is disturbing your peace, that does not deserve to be in your life.
In your life, yeah. I like that.
Can you say that back to me later? Thank you.
That's one. That's the merch. That's the merch. Protect your peace.
Protect your peace.
Rachel, note it down.
I love that.
That feels a little bit too heartfelt for us, though, doesn't it?
No, that's amazing. No, that is amazing. And you're actually reminding me of my sister. My sister is somebody who you could easily be like, oh, she's a bitch. Like, only because she's got boundaries like nobody I've ever met before. And if you're at her house and now it's 7 o'clock and she's hosting a party and now she's like, well, now it's time for me to wind up. She'll be like, okay, everybody, thanks for coming. Have a good day. And you're like, what are you talking about? She's like, no, now it's time for me to clean up and relax. And I need time to do X, Y, and Z before I go to bed. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But if somebody tries to run one past her, suck her energy, whatever it is, she is so quick to stand in that power and be like, no, not on me. Like, it's not happening. And I admire that so much about her. But then, it is one of those where you can't always be in that space. Then you are just a bitch, But it is such a gift. And there is a balance, right?
Yeah.
You can't just be one or the other. But it's important to understand when you have to be one over the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Remind me that one too, Lauren.
Yeah, I will. And like Monique said earlier too, it doesn't have to be mean. It can be a loving, firm boundary. It's actually just about being very clear. And I think sometimes when people go to communicate boundaries, they've reached a certain level where they're sort of boiling over the top, or or if you're like me, it's like I'm feeling all the feelings and I'm trying to put down this boundary, and then it's really awkward, and then it's just going to make things weird. But if you get really clear in yourself about why you're doing it, before you sort of approach it, and do it in a loving way. I mean, if you get pushback, that's another thing, but
Right.
But you know what's really interesting? Sorry, go on, Monique.
I was just saying exactly what she said. You want to protect the peace, and the boundaries need to be put up. And we just want to get to that place before you feel like you're so anxious and it's like you're so nervous. I mean, because a boundary just tells you how much you love you, and it shows everybody else how much you love you too. Because if you don't have any, you'll have people they'll walk over it all the time, and they're like, "Well, you're not putting up a boundary, so I can do it too." So I say it's the way I'm loving myself. Not in an ugly way, but I have boundaries which you cannot cross. That's all.
Yeah. What I was going to say, 100%. What I was going to say was that in a totally different way, though, there's also a different version of me that when it comes down to spiritually, when I know that there's been something that's been attached to me or drained, I'm quite good at snipping that shit and handing you back your monkey. There you go. That's yours, not my stuff. Shut that down. Because that stuff is insidious, and you'll be dead before you know it. You know what I mean? Before you're even living. And so that stuff can be really, really quite tricky. And there's many ways of how those attachments can come. There's many ways how people can live vicariously through you, or they're living off your energy, and you're wondering, why am I so tired, so exhausted, or why am I this, or why am I that? There's lots of different reasons that you could have that you may experience or feel. And those ones I will snip, shut, stitch up, and then do the healing work. Because this was the thing I think I spoke about just recently. Doing the healing work, a lot of times we sever those connections, or we take off those drains. But where it's been connected to you, you've got to do the work to heal that where the source, where it was actually coming from. So it isn't just a case of just snip and it's gone. You then have to go to work on your own body to do the work, to do the healing. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, for those ones, if that's a spiritual block, then I'll block you faster than you can spit.
I think you do well with blocks.
But also, I think there's a trap, right? And Monique touched on this earlier about, being in the spiritual world and doing the work we do. And I've certainly been in this place where it's like, well, I do healing work. I should be able to forgive. I should be able to see the whole picture. They've been traumatized, or they've been through this, or I've been through that. And it can be a bit of a trap. For I know I've certainly been there. I'm and I've moved past it. But just to be aware, because you don't, if it's, I just come back to disturbing your peace. If it is disturbing your peace, then you don't have to do anything that isn't love of self, right?
Sometimes, though, those people are your family,
Yes.
your parent, they're your sibling, they're your spouse, I mean, it could be as innocent as mom guilt. My mom was fantastic at giving me and making me feel mom guilt. And we're a close to humongous Greek family. And there's like it'll be like President's Day. And she's like, well, the whole family's getting together because nobody's working. And I'm like, I'm not coming over for President's Day. And this guilt, she'd be like, you'll be the only one who's not here. And Yana, you really should be here. And we'd get off the phone. And I would end up going there, not wanting to. And then I remember one day consciously being like, I can't let her guilt take over. I can't let her guilt take over. I can't do it. And I remember the first time I said, no, I'm not coming in. I don't care. You can't change my mind. And she tried to convince me a few times on the phone call. We get off and I was like, I'm not going. And I had to fight with that guilt with myself for like the next couple of hours before I felt that energy subside. Yeah. Now, when it comes to my mom, I'm like, no.
Yeah. It's had to do it once.
Right. It took some time. And then I was like, no, I'm really good with that. And it's not that I don't love you, I don't care about you, but I'm able to cut that off. And now, see, this is the other thing about the vampires, the energy vampires. They'll take and they'll take and they'll take and they'll suck off that energy. But the second you stop giving it, like a narcissist, right? One equals the other. They're like, oh, I'm no longer receiving the thing I'm trying to get. And eventually if you don't block them first, they'll be on their way to somebody else who can give them what they need. And so I guess that's a really important point, right? You block that off and eventually they'll move on to someone else.
Yeah, because
with narcs,
they have to go somewhere else. They have to feed somewhere.
Yeah, narcs can be a bit different though, isn't it? Because they are real feeders, and narcs feed off. They feed off sort of like a frenetic kind of energy, so they can plant a seed in your head, and they know what it's going to cause because they know how you're going to react and what it's going to do to your circuits and to you, and they live
it to
off
one
that
person.
energy. Yeah, and so
it's
they don't
usually
even have
a
to
relationship.
live or be around you. Yeah, right. But they don't even have to live with you or even be around you. They could be living in another city, in another town or whatever. But they know once they've done something that's triggered you, it's put you into this kind of energetic ball of fire. They just sit where they are and feed off you. And they can live off that for whether or not some narcs can live off that for weeks, for months, and then they come back to feed again. They are feeders. So it's that's a whole sometimes that can be a whole different ball game.
Oh, other ball game.
Narcs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think with that,
with
it's like actual having physical space can really help with those situations when you're first trying to, move past them, because often being around and in the energy fields of them, I know they can reach you in other ways though. But what Yana was speaking about is, it brings a good point up. It's, with I'm not talking about narcissists here, but say with the, decision Yana had to make about not going to this thing. It's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? It's a good question to ask yourself. It depends on the situation, but sometimes it is taking that one, deep breath and make that decision and then see what happens. And what Yana realized is that nothing really happened. It wasn't the end of the world. Her relationship wasn't affected and everyone was okay. So I think in those kinds of situations, what's the worst that can happen? And can I just give this a go? Get curious. What will happen if I do it once? But yeah, the narcissist topic is like a whole other podcast, right?
Oh yeah, many.
A series of podcasts. Kylie's been very, very quiet.
I know, Kylie, come on.
I know. So, Kylie, I'm sure that you must have had this kind of experience. So, are you having a boundary lesson too, or are you sitting in your healed space and thinking, boy, I really have done a lot of work on myself. I'm cool with this. You
know what? It's funny because I don't resonate with this conversation much. And this is why. I, of course, have boundary issues. Like everyone, I'm not perfect, nowhere near it, actively working on it. Had a case in point recently, right? But I have no problem blocking you for my own peace.
Mm-hmm.
I trigger people, and I know that that's one of my purposes here. I will trigger the shit out of you and I'm not afraid to be like, no bullshit about it. And if you don't respond to that, well, I don't give a shit. That's not my problem. That's not mine to wear, right? That's all you, girlfriend. That's all you. So I'm like, you know what? Take it or leave it. Peace out. Right. And if you start spurting back at me that I hurt you, and I'll be like, I'm sorry, block. I don't care. That's your shit to work out. I am okay.
Have you always been
that.
like that? Have you always been like that?
No,
Okay.
but it came with when you have to deal with so much different energy, especially the darker energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yana, I put Yana's guides in place
She's
because I'm like, bitch, no. You know, and you have to have that mentality.
Just give him support. Don't fire him. And Kylie's like, you can't do this. We're gonna bring in somebody else. Are you up for the job? And I was like, oh my God.
That's right. No, because you know what? Like if I open myself a little bit, that energy gets in. And I get that maybe once every 6 months where like something will but that's because there's something within me that's been left open to be triggered. Right. And if I've done the work, then you can come at me and spurt whatever. Whatever block. So that's just kind of where I'm at. So I know that my team is in play. I don't really attract energy vampires. I attract people that want to be in my space a lot, but I'm like, you know what? That's cool. You do you, but I'm going to sure as hell put a wall up, you know, and leave it at that. That's my 2 cents. I'm sorry. That's just how it is.
Oh no, don't be. No, it's great.
No,
we're loving it.
I'm not an empath. If I was an empath, that would have been my Achilles heel. Like,
well, I was just sitting here thinking, girls, we've got to stop trying to make her cry because really, it's not going to go through if she starts getting.
No, I'm just kidding.
One day it's gonna happen. I just need one time.
We need her to be badass, though, right?
And not a CGI tear, like a real tear. Just come down, just one.
Squeeze one out. I know.
Okay, Kylie, why don't you do a lovely card pull for us on what we need to know about energy vampires, on how to block them, on what's going to help us shift that energy.
So I was drawn to pulling the Archangel Raphael healing deck by a lady who no longer wants to be recognized with doing the cards. She found Jesus. She wants to save everyone. So
see, she's been calling me.
And do you give a flying toenail? Do you give a flying toenail? You do not. So this was a 2 card that fell out. So I've got call upon Archangel Raphael for help, right? So I'm going to say a little, the little statement at the bottom. Dear Archangel Raphael, I ask you for your healing help with whatever situation that comes up for you at this moment. Thank you for your divine healing intervention. That could be absolutely anything, relationship, body, whatever, right? And then the other card was acceptance. Okay, I think that looks like Archangel Michael. Dear God and Archangel Raphael, please help me accept that everything is going in the right direction. So whatever is resonating for you now is coming up for healing and acceptance.
You know, and that's such a key point we didn't talk about with all of this is accepting the outcome of, if I have to put up boundaries, if I have to cut this person off, if I have to disappear from this person's life, everything's going to be okay. It's going to work out. It's going to be fine. I'm not, you know, that is, we're hard on ourselves, and just accepting that everything will work out is such a beautiful way to just put a ribbon on it and go, it's in God's hands. It'll be okay. So thank you for that, Kylie. All right, Monique, why don't you let our listeners know where they can find you and how they can work with you?
Okay. So I am on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as Talk Tea with Monique. I also have a website, Monique's Holistics. It's Monique's with an S, holistics.com. And I have things that I can design directly for whoever wants to join on. I have a free discovery call as well, and we could just sit and we vibe together and we align together. I'll be glad to help.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you for listening, everybody. This concludes our episode. If you are interested in booking a reading, a healing, a guided meditation session, a light body activation, some coaching sessions with Monique, or simply just want to say hello, head on over to yoursoulwisdomshow.com. We thank you for allowing us to create this beautiful space, and we hope you have a beautiful, blessed day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.